What's going on, everybody? This is episode 128 of the Standing 8 podcast, another edition of Friday Corner Boxing Talk with none other with some of the podcast crew. First off, we got he's back with us after some considerable time. Steven Ruiz, Kilo Stevo, joining us vocally. What's up, Steven? How you been, man?
Yes, sir. Good. Just excited to finally get to be back. That we got one going. So excited to be here, even though we don't have the full crew, but happy with Courtney is all we need. Courtney and Aaron's all we need.
Oh, thank you for the sentiments. However, we still anticipate Tiffany and Tommy joining us later into the show. But Courtney, what's up, man? I know you got a lot to say about the fights that occurred on July 19th. But first off, how you been, man? Life wise, what's up, man?
Absolutely, man. Just blessed to be back on here once again with you. You the mastermind, and Big Steve O'Kilo. It's always a good time and a good day here on my side of the world, or good morning when I can chop it up with y'all about this sweet science. And other than that, man, things have been great. Continue to be blessed. Thank you for everybody's support. Being out here overseas, getting ready to go to another assignment. I'll be there for 2 years and take some time off in between. But yo, what I'm saying, I'm ready to dispense with these pleasantries and hop into talking some of that boxing ish. Yo, let's go. Let's get it.
Awesome. So for this episode, we're going to talk about the big fights that happened this past Saturday, July 19th. We got Usyk versus Dubois, part 2, Pacquiao versus Barrios, and of course, Jesse Bam Rodriquez versus Phumelele Cafu. Two of these fights, the winners of those, it does have pound for pound implications. So we're definitely going to talk about that. One winner solidifying his current status, and the other winner possibly moving up a spot based on what I'm reading. So let's start off with Usyk. Talking about Usyk versus Dubois, the rematch. As we all know, Oleksandr Usyk defeated Daniel Dubois by fifth round knockout in the rematch at Wembley Stadium in London. This victory allowed Usyk to reclaim the undisputed heavyweight championship again. This rematch followed their first fight in 2023, where a punch from Dubois was ruled a low blow, a decision expectedly the team disagreed with. In the rematch, Usyk floored Dubois twice in the 5th round. The first knockdown, Usyk dropped Dubois with an overhand right. The hit sent Dubois staggering to the canvas, but he managed to beat that count. The second knockdown, however, shortly after the first one, Usyk delivered a left hook to Dubois' chin, sending him to the canvas for the second time. This time, Dubois was unable to beat that count, and the referee stopped the fight at 1 minute, 52 seconds into the 5th round. Stephen, Mr. Kilo, I know you weren't there, obviously not for that fight, but I'm sure you saw the replays of the highlights. Give us your thoughts on Usyk's, another feat in heavyweight division, not only defeating Dubois a second time, definitely more definitively, but reclaiming that 2-time undisputed status in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he just solidified himself even more. I've seen a lot of 50-50, I guess I would say. I've seen some people say, man, he's one of the greatest of all times. And now I've seen some people say, how dare you say that? Obviously, comments like that are always going to be met with controversy. However, I had somebody fold his own argument when I was debating with him, saying he's not even the greatest heavyweight of all time. He wouldn't have beaten any of the other guys. But there's two problems with that. When you're saying he's not the greatest heavyweight of all time, you are correct, because he was a cruiserweight that killed it there and went up. So then you're already talking about his greatness on accident. The second part of it is you can't blame somebody for fighting who's in front of them. They only have who's available at the time. Just like Clarissa Shields, she gets a lot of hate on her, but it's like, hey, I show up, I win, I collect accolades. Therefore, I am the GOAT based on what the job I come in and do every single time. That's not fair to say, well, you didn't fight Layla Ali, or you didn't fight Christy Martin or Ann Wolf. I wasn't born during that time period, so that's not my fault. I'm born in this time period, and this is all I could do. So for Usyk, I feel like, hey, he just went in there. Daniel Dubois, he's taking care of every single person he can. He's fought all the way up from going to cruiserweight to heavyweight. So it's like, bro, what else do you want him to do? Like, he can't invent another weight class, and he can't invent new sparring, or he can't invent new opposition. So it's like, hey, bro, for the moment, just sit back, relax, enjoy these beautiful knockdowns, and the next guy up has a chance. But until then, it's hard to throw dirt or shade when he's just there doing the job he's got to do.
Great, great stuff, Steven. Yeah, and I agree. And what else is there to do other than face other names left in that division? Joseph Parker, Parker to name to reference an example. Courtney, your thoughts on that? Another spectacular accomplishment by Usyk. Go ahead, Courtney.
Hey, he did what greats do. And I mean, whether there's debate over his greatness or where he stands in the on the list or whatever, I think those are debates only that are valid until time has passed. And we have a wider window to examine somebody's field and list of accomplishments within the time frame that they were competing in. But I think it's very hard to discount that Usyk, his run right now is nothing less than historic. Per me personally, I got Usyk number 1 in the top 10 until somebody proves otherwise. And that person who proves otherwise is going to have to be a heavyweight. And I think we're in a very competitive heavyweight era. I think that gets discounted because we're in an area or in an era where if it had been any other time frame, all these talented heavyweights that are in the division right now that are generating this much buzz would have been fought each other multiple times. If this had been the 70s, 80s, or even 90s, it's just the business of boxing right now makes things cloudy. But if you look at the talent pool in the heavyweight division right now, one could argue that there's more shark infested waters right now in the heavyweight division than there were when definitely the Klitschko's were doing their thing. I would even I'm probably gonna get some flack for this in comments with the people viewing and tuning in and whatnot. But I think this is a more competitive era than when Larry Holmes was a long reigning champion, and I think this is a more competitive era than the early stages of when Tyson was doing this thing in the era. So I think what Usyk is doing is speaking for itself and is speaking very loudly. As far as this fight against Dubois this past weekend, he did what greats do, and he put it to rest. And there was a lot. There was a lot of chatter and a lot of conjecture and speculation in that first fight with Dubois about that blow that was ruled low. I'm of the opinion that was above the belt, and I think it should have been counted as such. But there was people out there who had something to say about that. Dubois' team emphatically had something to say about that. And I think Usyk doing it, regaining his undisputed status, and doing it in the fashion that he did, doing it in the venue that he did, it made it all the more sweeter for him. Is that he shut him up, and he got his belt back, and he got his undisputed status back. And so when you do historic things and you do them emphatically, it's very hard for people to hold your greatness hostage in the court of public opinion. So I think Usyk did what he had to do. He did it in style. He did it emphatically, and he put the question to bed. So it's I'm eager to see who's next up in the in line, and I think it's kind of cool that at heavyweight we're kind of seeing the sweepstakes now with Usyk, and in terms of rather than there was the Floyd Mayweather sweepstakes. There's the Canelo sweepstakes. I think in those it was more about money. It was more about television and who's going to be more aesthetically, or who's going to be a better matchup for them. But in this Usyk, it's literally next man up as far as like, hey, if you want to be considered with any merit in the sport, if you want any piece of the accolades, you got to go through Usyk. And with Usyk holding all 4 belts, he's pretty much got to take the next man up. So right now, that's looking like it's going to be Parker. But I'm eager to see how it's going to line up in the division, how it's going to rack and stack. And I just hope that this becomes more of a heavyweight era and environment and realm where these guys who are angling for the shot at Usyk will start fighting each other in an attempt to make the line or the cue a little more clear and start taking some of each other out and do less talking and do more fighting and get in the ring and gloving them up.
Yeah. And just to add to that, taking into account to what both Steven and you, Courtney, just said, I feel that for Usyk, given in the manner in which he entered the heavyweight division and now how the fashion he's dominating the heavyweight division, the more and also couple that with the fact that we see no signs of him ever decline. He's only just getting better and better every fight. The more if he at this rate, all he's doing right now is just raising the bar after each fight when it comes to not only the heavyweight division, but also a pound for pound talk discussion. So it's he's truly a Trojan horse, in my opinion, in that division. Tiffany, are you in with us? Is everything okay with you connection wise? Mic check for Tiffany, and also welcome, Tiffany. What's up? How you doing?
Aaron, while she gets it sorted, I just want to add one thing on Usyk's legacy too. Is like, as far as the chatter and the debate about his greatness. I mean, he's basically doing it like another, a person who's considered an all-time great in the heavyweight division. It's Holyfield. Holyfield came up from cruiserweight. Like I said, I took a little flack on a previous episode from Steve-O saying, I think Holyfield did a little better and had a better reign at cruiserweight. But it can be clearly argued that Usyk at heavyweight has done it better than Holyfield. So I think in terms of like I said earlier in my comments, the run has been nothing short of historic. Especially when he came up from cruiserweight and beat a guy who was 6'9", 300 pounds to win the heavyweight title. So I think the accolades and the body of work he's putting in, that's speaking for itself.
Yeah, great follow up, Steven. Any other thoughts you want to speak on Usyk versus Dubois before we head to the next segment?
Oh, just like Courtney said, it's just like the game in NFL, right? Athletes are only getting bigger, stronger, faster, right? So Courtney just mentioned, who he beat, right? It's like that in football. Like the 1950s football speed is not the same as today's speed. So you got to give these guys credit when they're doing these accolades in this environment. Just like we give the accolades for who they beat, because time was a great testament to legends. These guys don't benefit from time right now because it's like, well, how well do their wins age? But what I can give them credit for is what they're doing in the now. And like I said, the athletes of today, are just so much bigger, stronger, faster than the athletes back in the day. So you got to give Usyk, Inoue, Bam, all these guys credit for the accolades they're creating now. And then when the dust settles, you see how well those accolades age.
Nicely said. Nicely said, Steven. So that, very excited to see what Usyk does next. I assume it's going to be Parker next up in line. But exciting stuff for Usyk. So next up, a lot to unpack. Pacquiao versus Barrios. The 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao coming out of a 4-year retirement, challenged the reigning WBC welterweight world champion Mario Barrios. Despite being 46 years old, coming out of retirement, he fought very competitively against the younger Barrios. One glaring positive from Barrios was his jab work, in which he significantly landed 45 jabs compared to Pacquiao's 20. In the early rounds, I did see Barrios start off tentative, cautious, allowing Pacquiao to gain the edge initially. Throughout the fight, we did see remnants of classic Pacquiao with his unique hand speed, footwork combinations. Those attributes proved to be challenging at times for the younger Mario Barrios even. However, in my view, I do feel Barrios did just enough to beat Pacquiao on the scorecards. The most memorable thing I got out of the fight was Barrios keeping Pacquiao at bay with the consistent jab work, as I mentioned earlier, especially after he got accustomed to Manny's style midway into the fight. Going forward, I really don't see much incentive for Manny to continue fighting onward professionally, let alone at 147. Just off the fact that he still struggled at his age against, probably the weakest link in the 147 pound championship scene. My thoughts. That's my thoughts on that pay-per-view fight. Steven, your thoughts, your assessment about Manny's return. Go ahead, Steven.
That one, just like the Usyk, it's a little tough because literally as we were waiting for Bam to come out to the press conference, the Manny Pacquiao fight started. And in the presser, a lot of the media was like, oh man, we're going to have to sit here while Bam watches Pacquiao fight his boy from San Antonio, and then he's going to come out to the media. Luckily, he didn't. But it was tough because we were all trying to watch it from there. So I caught glimpses. But to what I still think happened was just kind of like you alluded to at the beginning of that is I felt like I told Bam's dad, I was like, I'm only worried that he's going to give Pacquiao the great too much respect to start, and he's going to allow rounds to go to Pacquiao because he's not going to kill him with youth or what have you. And then you start watching the fight, and obviously Pacquiao's older, so he's starting to fade a little bit. But I think had he come out and just said, you know what, I'm the champion. I'm not the weakest champion. I know he did pick me for a reason, thinking that I was like the weakest link. But I think had he started a little bit earlier and not shown Manny that GOAT status respect, I think maybe he then edges it out. Right now in boxing, I don't know how we've seen so many draws like we just saw last night and then like we saw with Manny Pacquiao. But we always got to consider, and Courtney knows, the business side of boxing, right? Because that leaves the door open for Mario Barrios to go his own way without kind of being unscathed. You could hate on him to say, well, you got a draw against Manny who hadn't fought in 4 years, but then you could say, well, he also got a draw against one of the GOATs. He was also winning against Tank until he got knocked out rounds. So he could still sell. Pacquiao could then turn around and say, hey, I'm Pacquiao, and we saw in the media what it did. It splintered the shit out of all the media between Usyk, us, and Bam and Frisco, and those guys in Vegas. So he could say, I'm going to try my luck against Rolly now and see where the dust settles with that. So I think that draw did help them business-wise. I just don't think boxing fans really appreciated it. Either let Manny be legendary and get it, or let Barrios keep his belt and keep it going. And we applaud Manny for what he did. But these draws to me are getting out of hand, especially after last night. But I digress on that. But I think we saw what we saw. An older Manny could still hang with the best of them that are champions today.
Yes, Stephen. And to add to your point, this draw by the judges, it just, for better or worse, gives Pacquiao more options in his view going forward, and also Barrios more options for him going forward. So yeah, we'll have to see for these two fighters. Corny, your thoughts on that fight, especially Manny's return, especially. Go ahead, Corny.
I can't really be mad at the draw. Yeah, to be honest, it was for my expectations, for my style, for my taste, it was a pretty mediocre main event. The card itself and the run up and the promotion, it was what it was. They got my $75, but the thing is, it's, I invite everybody tuning in to go ahead and show love to Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri on their podcast, because I think Malignaggi, I think he put it perfectly, is that Barrios stunk up the joint. He ruined the promotion by going in and not trying to solidify himself as the here and the now as the WBC champion, as one of the people who holds one of the jewels at 147. There was basically Pacquiao's wife chose him as the opponent because she saw him fight. She looked at the TV and she said, Manny, I think you can beat this guy. And the way Barrios came out and fought, is that like he solidified that sentiment of why he was chosen to get in with a 46-year-old Pacquiao who'd been away from the sport for 4 years, and just coming in and dapping him up, the start to every round. His trainer Bob Santos saying, "Hey, go out there and go after this guy. Stop showing him so much respect. Stop touching gloves with him." And what does he do in response to that? He goes out and he touches his glove again. It's kind of like the Caleb Plant and the Canelo fight, where Caleb Plant starts basically stops in the middle of the ring and starts talking to Canelo, saying, "Hey, I respect you, I respect your skills." As he's getting pounded,
That
it
one
was
he was begging for his life.
Exactly. And I just and for Barrios to come in with the mantra that he's the pride of San Antonio, South Texas, the Aztec Warrior, a continuance of the great legacy of all these great Mexican fighters who basically Pacquiao went in and annihilated over the generation, and saying that with me it's going to be different. For me, I'm coming in to get payback for those guys. And then coming in and you're touching gloves with this guy at every break, that started every round or whatever. I just think, in terms of how the fight was going, for the skill set you were able to employ against Manny Pacquiao, it was just like, yeah, he didn't want to win that fight, and I don't think it was one of those things that's like he didn't want to win because he didn't want to beat Manny or whatever. It's just he came in starstruck, and like. I think if Gary Kittleson was on the show with us, I would feel worse about saying this, but say it's Barrios. He showed himself as he not only showed himself as the joke at 147, but he basically showed 147 as being a joke of a division. And what we're seeing at 147 in
I don't
terms of
know.
what we saw from Floyd, from what we saw from Pacquiao, from what we saw from from Spence and Crawford and all these guys historically that have populated the division, to see where 147 is now, that's pretty sad. But I mean, in terms of what that sets up, Manny Pacquiao's manager Sean Gibbons said fighting, giving Barrios the rematch. Just because of how mediocre he was as a personality coming up to the run up in the promotion and the way he fought. They say like, hey, give us Rolly. Boots Ennis is about to vacate that belt, so Rolly Romero will be the full 147 title holder. I think I think that's going to be the move that Pacquiao and his team's going to make, because it's going to be a better promotion. It's going to be a better run up. I think Rolly Romero, in all his arrogance that drives people crazy, is going to come in full heel. And for no matter how that turns out, I think Barrios is going to come in to win that fight. And early predictions, I think with Rolly's style and his mentality, that's going to leave a lot of openings for Pacquiao to get to land a big shot and get an emphatic knockout in that shot. So, in terms of the future and how that pans out and how things are going to look like at 147, I fully expect to see Manny Pacquiao as regaining a piece of the 147, the welterweight championship.
Interesting stuff. Steven, you had something to say. Did you want to finish? Continue that thought, or?
No, I was just gonna say that I wouldn't say a division's weak. I could say maybe it's got less stars. And again, not to say that Courtney's completely wrong, not at all. I just think like when he mentioned Spence and Bud have been there, but Spence and Bud also sat there and traffic jammed 147 and didn't fight for 5 years. So it's like, well, yeah, they're badass, but it's like they're badass and not fighting each other. At least these guys are doing it, and that's what I would say. Like, it's not weak. We're just finding out who's going to be the new cream of the crop. Also, we mentioned certain fighters at 147, but they just happen to be legendary fighters of the last 20 years that fought there. So it's kind of tough. And there's a yes and a no. I can agree with some parts of it, and I disagree with some parts, because it's like, yeah, what does it matter if Bud and Spence were at 147 forever and they never fought each other for 5 years? That doesn't make that division more badass than any other division.
But there was a greater conversation at 147, even when they were circling each other. There are just
Yeah,
no
that's where all the
there are
stars
no
were.
salivating matchups at 147 right now.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
know
I'm
that's
saying?
just because all those guys
Pacquiao
moved
had to
up.
come back. Pacquiao had to come back to wet people's whistle. And it's kind of in a sense to remind people that there's still a welterweight division.
It's just not. Pacquiao
Barrios
didn't come
wasn't doing it.
back for 147. He came back for
Barrios wasn't
money,
doing it.
like all these
Boots,
guys are
Boots is
doing
gone
to
now.
make money.
Like, you know, there's yeah. I mean, is it one of those things where there's no marquee names at 147? Yes. But even when
Yeah, they all moved up to 154.
when it was Barrios, when it was Barrios, when it's Boots, when it was Stanionis or whatever, like, you know, people weren't clamoring for those for people to unify at 147 when those three populated it. When Spence and Crawford were there, they was like, yo, we need to get that on. When Pacquiao and Floyd were there, we were like, yeah, we need to get those fights on.
So those divisions are good as long as they're not fighting people and
Steven,
fans.
Stop interrupting me, Steve.
Bro, you've been talking for 20 minutes.
But like,
I just go little parts.
But like I said,
Aaron asked
not
me
talking over
if
you,
I
man.
had any response, and I gave the response. I only come in. You go for 10 minutes. I don't say nothing. I only come in the last 30 seconds. That's all I was saying.
But dude, the thing is, do I interrupt you? No, I don't. So please let me finish what I was saying, and then I will cede the mic to you, man. But like I'm saying, it's just that you don't get that. There's not that wow factor. There's not that salivation for people clamoring for matchups at 147 until a guy like Pacquiao comes back for, you know, saying after 4 or 5 years. I'm saying, so that, I mean, that's really all I'm saying is that the public, the 147 has fallen pretty far from the from the consciousness of the public.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff, Courtney, Steven. So moving on to the next segment. You know, Jesse Bam Rodriquez versus Phumelele Cafu. So let's talk about that. Holding the WBC super flyweight title, Jesse Bam Rodriguez defeated WBO super flyweight champ, former super flyweight champion Cafu by TKO in the 10th round to unify the titles at the Ford Center in Frisco, Texas. Also this past Saturday, July 19th. The fight was a competitive one with both fighters landing significant punches. Bam's footwork was praised. Some were describing him as gliding from one move to the next. Cafu landed some good shots, but Rodriguez's pressure and combinations ultimately wore him down. In the 10th round, Cafu was visibly hurt by a body shot, and the fight was stopped by his corner. According to CompuBox, Bam landed 218 of 610 of his punches, while 36% percentage-wise. Cafu, 31%. He landed 144 of 468. Steven, I want to start off with you because obviously you and Tommy were there, ground zero, as credential media. From your vantage point, other than what I saw from my end, my eyes staring through the screen, you were there at ground zero. Give us your assessment of that fight, especially from Bam's side and Cafu's approach to the fight before that eventual ending in the 10th round.
I'll just defer to Courtney so that way he can get what he needs to get out, and then I'll respond at the end. I'll just take 2 minutes.
No, go ahead. The difference is I'm not going to talk over you. So go ahead and take the mic, man. I insist.
No, it was a good fight, man. And like I said, whatever you guys got, I'll support.
Okay, hey, great fight between Bam and Cafu. Better fight than I expected. I thought Bam was going to have an easier time with that. And that's not to disparage Cafu's talents or his accomplishments. I saw the fight between him and Tanaka where he won the WBO belt. Where he fought Tanaka in Japan, and it was kind of life or death. And I think he deservingly pulled it out in that fight against Tanaka. But with Bam, it's been decisive with everybody he's been in with so far. Up in this buzzsaw run from where he started out as a flyweight to going where he is now, and just unifying this division and all these belts. But that was pretty telling in the post fight where he said, you know, when he was asked if Cafu was everything he thought he was going to be, he was like, nah, he was tougher. You know, and you know, Bam, he had the little, you know, he had the little shiner under the eye or whatever. But you know, just from seeing the fight, you know, as it unfolded in real time or whatever, yeah, maybe it went longer than people thought. But I never really saw where Bam was pressed in any term of the fight. And Cafu is very, for super flyweight, very imposing guy, very tall fighter, very lanky, very rangy, and just for Bam to be able to adapt to that style and navigate and maneuver, and just at a lot of points in the fight do what he wanted to do in there, and then just get it going late, and take that prompted for his corner, just like, hey, go out there and get this guy out of here. That's talent. So and a lot of times when you're with these fighters, they say it looks different on TV in terms of when you're in the ring with these guys. And he was just like, hey, the ability, I was laying it on him, throwing a lot of power shots at this guy, and a lot of shots that, I expectedly hurt other people with. He was just, he just kept coming. So I think Cafu, he gave a real solid accounting of himself. And, it came in there and was game, against the guy who was a top tier pound for pound talent. Came in there, as we are talking about earlier, as he didn't show that respect, came in to win it. In the run up, was talking a little shit, saying he was going to take Bam's head back to South Africa with him. That obviously didn't happen, but like that's what you want to see, man. Basically came into a Lions Den, came into Texas against Bam, had the crowd against him, and went in there and fought to win. And went out of the shield. And I'm eager to see Cafu come again. I think he deserves to be on TV again and get more notable matchups. And just in terms of with Bam, with that accomplishment, hey, it's on to it's on the next, and it's on the third unify a third belt at super flyweight. And I think he's well on his way to being the undisputed in the at 115. And as far as beyond that, numerous matchups that can be made, and the future is looking bright. In terms of Junto and possibly even Inoue on the horizon, if they could decide at a catch weight maybe, or somebody comes down the division as he comes up. So.
Yeah, great stuff, Courtney. And to add to your point, especially about Cafu, I admired that him being the foreign national coming in. He was very convinced of himself that he was going to take off on Bam's plans. And I give him that. That's very admirable. Although even though he came up short, but to him to have that confidence, and this goes to my earlier point when we talked about Barrios. I just wish, in that same vein, I wish Barrios had that mentality against Pacquiao. That would have been nice, but no. I know I'm going off a tangent, but speaking of Barrios real quick, Barrios gave Pacquiao too much reverence even during the pre-fight. I just wish he had that same tenacity as Cafu when he faced Pacquiao. But yeah, Cafu, despite the loss, gave a good account of himself, made it a competitive fight. But Bam was doing Bam. Was just too much. Just showed why he's now, in most pundits' views, eyes, top 5 pound for pound. So great stuff, Courtney.
And I feel like,
Steven?
go ahead. Cafu wanted to be great, and he called out Bam, for better or worse or whatever. So, but like that's the mentality: is if you want to be great, you have to challenge greatness. You have to step up to greatness, and that's what he did. It didn't work out for him, but that's boxing in itself. And hopefully we see him come again.
Awesome. Steven, you and Tommy were there, ground zero. Getting both sides of that matchup. Cafu, paraphrasing what he said, he told you, hey, he didn't come considerable miles from South Africa just to be, and he used this term, terminated by Bam. Unfortunately, he did. Kilo, Stephen Ruiz, give us your assessment from ground zero of that fight.
No, I think Courtney said it all. I don't think there's anything I could add to that. I think he did great, and that's all you could do, man. He tried to do his best.
Speaking of Bam, it is reported that he does in November. he tends to face WBA title holder Fernando Martinez in November. Steven, I have a question for you. Uh, is it safe to assume that Bam he does intend to become undisputed at that division before considering moving up on the next weight class? Your thoughts on that, Steven?
Well, they're just taking it fight by fight. Eddie Hearn said that they've got a lot of stuff. They want to do San Antonio, sell out San Antonio, of course, with a big name, but they can only fight one fight at a time. So it's tough because with Bam's greatness, they've got everything lined up behind him, but he's still got to take these fights and still deliver. It's just unfair to him, I feel like, to put that pressure to be like, and your next opponent, before you've even fought this opponent, where it just kind of discredits everybody in the building but the people that are making those calls. I think, like you're right, Aaron, they've got big aspirations for him, but he's just trying to knock him out as fast as he can, safely, like he's doing with dominance. And it's unfair because I don't know who said it, but they said it was a competitive fight. It really wasn't. Just Cafu just circled the entire way. I don't care to see Cafu again, not because it's whatever, but he's just not a name that grabbed it for me. People didn't know who he was outside of the upset he had in Japan, but he just circled, and the only thing that he got was from Bam was he was tougher than I thought, because Bam did whatever he wanted the entire time, and he didn't have enough steam coming back. So that's why Bam just walked in where normally you don't want to just walk straight in. He was able to do that all night, circled. Like, you could time it with Tommy taking photos every time he was going to circle back. It was like they were NASCAR doing laps. And that's why Tommy got, shout out to him, all those badass photos, just because they kept coming in a circle where Cafu was just circling the ring with his back to the ropes, and that wasn't going to win it for him.
I said great stuff, and you know, a follow up question for both you and Steven and Corny. I'll start with you, Steven. Outside of Inoue, what other names has you curious? You know, to face Bam. What other name has you genuinely curious for Bam to fight potentially in the next couple of months?
See, that's what's tough is like you're not doing it on purpose because you were just looking for the right names, but he's already got a fight coming up. So any of that's it's a moot point because, like, yeah, we can say Inoue or Nick Ball or NJ, but it's like he's got to get through this one first. Like, they're not doing the fans a justice by allowing us to like hype a fight or grow a fight when they've already got the next guy up for the proverbial beatdown. So it's like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, I can't argue with Courtney or Tommy or, you know, Tiffany to say, yeah, this would be badass. It's like, well, they already got that one slated, and it's this guy. And that's kind of what they did with Cafu and this next guy. I forget his name, Panther or something like that. But it's hard to talk about other names if they've already got them scheduled. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I want to see Luka play the Lakers. I want to see Luka in his return home to the Mavericks, but it's like we got 30 games before that happens. So we got to kind of talk about those games before we even get close. So that's why it's tough.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You know, Corny, any fighter, you know, outside of Inoue that has you curious for, I guess, let me put some spice to that question, that has you curious for a good while. That
sure. I know the context in what you're talking about, and yeah. You know, and as fans, we all tend to try to play matchmaker. We all think we know better than the people who matchmake and promote these fights and manage fighters and do better. You know, and that's just a byproduct of with boxing. There's so much time and space in between when these guys fight, because you know it's not like the NBA or Major League Baseball where these guys play every other day. You know, we're going to see Bam and we're not going to see him again in a few months. So in between the time, there's pretty much nothing to do but sit around and talk and offer conjecture. But I think with Bam, and you know, in testament to where he is in the sport and him being up there, it's only natural that people are going to be looking ahead to see what's next and where things are going to shake out up the scale and further down the road. I think the smart move and the smart money is for him to go ahead and go to Saudi and handle business against this tough Argentinian in Martinez. And then I think after that fight, there's only one more piece of the of the crown that's still out there, and that's not in his hands, or around his waist or draped around his shoulders, and that's the I believe it's the IBF belt, and it's held by a pretty nondescript Mexican fighter, Will Baldo. I think that's what his name is, but that shouldn't be a tough fight for them to make in the match for him. And I think we see early next year he is undisputed at 115 or at super flyweight. And then beyond that, there are a whole host of killers at 118 at bantamweight who are residing in Japan. And I think he's on a trajectory where what he's doing at 115, he could easily step up to 118 and do that. As far as the biggest name at 118 that would be waiting is Junto Nakatani. I think Junto Nakatani is being put on a trajectory to be a future dance partner for Inoue. I think as far as Inoue, they would have to be, like I said earlier, there'll have to be major concessions made as far as making that fight. But I think beyond the individual fights and the matchups, what's just going to be exciting for Bam and what's going to be get everybody up on their feet and cheering for him, especially with his fan base over in Texas, is seeing him just go for history and just do things that are historic and do things in the emphatic fashion that he's been doing. And that's marching through 118. So I think the future is bright. I think Bam is the type of fighter that he is the matchup. So whoever you put in with him, that's just automatically that's a ready, set player one, right there. As far as put somebody in the ring with Bam, people want to see it.
Awesome account from both Stephen Ruiz, Ringside Global, and Corny, the Bird Brown Sugar Tanner. That's going to be it for our episode 128 of the Standing 8 podcast. I know I'll keep saying it every episode. It's always a pleasure to share the screen with all my podcast crew. Stephen Ruiz, Kilo Stevo out in the DFW, Texas. Any last thoughts, closing shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, Stephen.
No, just thank you guys for giving y'all's time today and your accounts. Thank you.
All right, Corny. Any last words, shout outs you want to give out? Go ahead, Corny.
Definitely, man. Hey, shout out to you for being the mastermind and putting this together on the boards. And make it always presenting a beautiful canvas for us to make beautiful work with this. Hey, Steve Okilo, always with the keen and sharp perspectives, and leveraging his relationships in the sport and his passion. Bringing that to the table. Shout out to everybody who's not here with us right now. Tiffany Daniels, the First Lady of Boxing. Tommy, Mike Gomez, Daniel Pena. Shout outs to them. Hope we're doing well. It's always hard for us to get the whole band together because unfortunately, as much as we love this, everybody's still got to make a living and put food on the table for their families and make a better life for themselves. But hey, it's one day. It's coming. And I'm keenly confident that we'll be able to continue to elevate the platform and continue to keep offering people a premier platform, premier content as it concerns the sport of boxing. And just shout out to everybody who is linked with us and has collaborated with us over the years and over time, and has allowed their fans to become ours. And allowed our fans to become their fans. Marcus Null, Ohio Runs Boxing, Supreme, In Vivo, all those people, Just Boxing, and other than that, all the people who globally have taken us to new heights internationally. Wherever you are on 6 continents, hey, we love y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for continuing to love us and plug us. And keep tuning in. We'll continue to be a force in this sport and in the commentary for you.
You know what? Great stuff, Corny. For the first time in my outro, I want to dedicate this shout out. This being this episode, making it an exception. I've been covering this wonderful person on the women's side of boxing, Brooke Cibrian. very humble. You know her, Courtney, doing big things in the LA scene. In just 9 fights in 18 months, Brooke Cyprian has officially broken into the world stage. She's ranked number 6 in the WBO, number 10 in the WBA, number 13 in the WBC. This was her actual a Stitch Command Premium hand wraps that she fought in her last professional fight, number 9 at the Hollywood Avalon Theater last month, I believe. She gifted me for those wraps. Shout out to you, Brooke. But yeah, she'll be building more on her accomplishments. This next Saturday, August 2nd at the Saboba Casino Resort in the city of San Jacinto, California. So that's Brooke Cyprian, who I'm shouting out. I've been doing special collaborations with her, video and photo wise. So shout out to you, Brooke. But yeah, be sure to check her out. Saturday, August 2nd at the Saboba Casino Resort as she builds more on her world rankings. Number 6 WBO, number 10 WBA, number 13 WBC. We're hoping she gets assigned by these one of the big conglomerates in the boxing world. But so yeah, big shout out to you, Brooke. But yeah, going back to the other shout outs, shout out to you, Courtney. As always, the Burr Brown Sugar lacing up with the knowledge. Stephen Ruiz, who was with us earlier. Also, of course, Tiffany Daniels, Tommy Rush Jr., Michael Gomes, Daniel Pena, Eddie Sanchez, our very first interview special guest back in September 2017. Supreme Boxing, Just Boxing Foundation, and Vivo Podcast, Gary Kittleson from 3D Boxing Blog, and all of our supporters and new supporters who've been who've been discovering us, and we appreciate your support. So I'm Aaron Sorial, Risk Visual out in Los Angeles. Courtney, the Burt Brown Sugar from abroad, always taking time with us to talk boxing, talking that shit. And you know what it is. Episode 128. That's it, everybody. Till next time. Peace.